All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. My name is Eric Schachter. I'm a senior vice president at LendGen Mortgage. We're backed by NJ Lenders. We have a really all-star panel today. I'm so excited. We have Louis Blangiardo, who does property and casualty insurance. He's been doing it for over a decade. We have Cindy Lee, who's a realtor in New York City for Corcoran Realty. She's been there for 5 years now. And we have Sean Umhafer, 20 years in the business working for Webster Bank. He does commercial real estate. So really so excited to have you guys. Thank you for taking the time to join us. The overall mantra and topic that we'll be discussing is now the right time to buy residential and or commercial real estate. So let's get started. Sean, a lot of people are talking about, the economic times that we're facing and the downturn in the market, and 2023, supposedly a recession is coming. What's your view on that? Are we in a recession already? Are we headed to a recession? What are you seeing?
All right. Yeah. So thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me. Just so you know, I also do commercial C&I lending as well. So I do commercial, real estate as well as, operating companies. So from my personal thought and perspective, generally speaking, most bankers are concerned about the potential headwinds in 2023, given all of the potential issues and the uncertainties in the markets and the impact of these increased interest rates. That said, though, we are operating, positively with optimism, but we're doing so cautiously. While our volumes are down from years past, we still are seeing some deal flow, which is great. From a market perspective, we have seen some favorable consumer price index reports that show that the Fed's fight against inflation may actually be working. And we've seen that in some of the discussions that we may actually see a smaller rate hike in February than originally thought. It may only be 25 basis points. So overall, I'd say there's some sort of renewed hope that there'll be some sort of soft landing and try to avoid, a significant recession that we've seen in the past.
I appreciate those words. I mean, 2008 was definitely challenging. Yeah. Exactly. Fingers crossed. We're praying. Yeah. Definitely wasn't a soft landing in 2008. So I think hopefully we've learned from that and we could be in a better position this year. So from your mouth to God's ears, I guess they say. Okay. Louis, from your side of things, when you're talking to business owners, obviously people are concerned just in general, but are they saying, hey, this is a great opportunity to create some wealth, or, complete panic and such? What are you hearing on the streets?
Yeah, well, naturally, all business owners are looking for opportunities, right? They're constantly looking for opportunities to increase their business revenue, their own revenue. So they're constantly out there seeking opportunities. At the same time, I'm seeing a lot of skepticism. I'm seeing a lot of tightening up on people. So it's a yes and no answer to that, where it used to be just maybe people were just looking to invest.
Yep. And, Cindy, you're in New York City. I think it's a little bit different of a overall, ballpark, comparing it to Long Island, comparing it to some other places in New Jersey. What are you seeing in regards to real estate in New York City and just overall cash offers? I know are always a big play. What's going on?
Yeah, overall, I am seeing the market kind of stabilize, kind of align with the interest rates right now. There are buyers still active in the market, and just kind of seeing what's going to happen. We're anticipating a supply uptake in March, April, which is fairly normal. And around this time of the year, the holiday season, it's normally slower than normal anyways. But supply compared to last year is about 7% below the average. So in terms of cash buyers, I mean, I have seen more cash buyers in the market in the second half of the year last year when the interest rates really started to, peak. And so, we'll see. I think there's a lot of like Louis was saying, there's some skepticism and some, a lot of buyers just sitting on the sidelines to see what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, hopefully we can get some of those renters into buyers, and as rates take a little dip here, hopefully this year, we should have some good opportunity. That sounds really like a home run. Sean, on your side of things, when we talk about, just stock portfolios are down huge, the average, wealth that Americans have are down. I see crypto is down huge. All these different things are down big. It is now the opportunity to get into real estate, to buy commercial property, and how are you going about instructing your clients at this time?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like any other investment that you have. Real estate has held in certain segments, right? So I would caution our clients to make sure that if they are going to purchase a property, if it's for their business, then they control that, right? But if it's an investment property, you have to make sure it's in the right class. We have seen some of the segments get hit pretty hard. Certainly retail, we've definitely seen office space and non-medical has been hit hard. So they have to look at what really makes sense, and they have to factor in their rates. So when they do look at these types of things, they have to make sure that it's a viable investment for them. So they have to make sure that the money works, because we haven't seen in industrial and some of the higher end segments, we haven't seen the prices dip as much as we thought with these increased rates yet. So they just have to. I think it is a good time for strong buyers to buy. They just have to do so, with a good plan.
I like that. And when you structure the loans for these clients, are there times where you cross collateralize against other assets that are held at the bank, or how are you helping them, structure some of these loans?
Yeah, when we look at our clients, we all do look at it as, from a global perspective, right? So if the potential client needs to make a transaction happen and it makes sense, then we can certainly look at being creative, right? That's how we separate ourselves against our competition. And we can look at it the overall, or if he has a property that's lowly levered or unlevered and has some excess cash flow, we can certainly leverage that as part of the transaction. Absolutely.
That's great. Cindy, when it comes to your side of the house, when we talk about getting your client's offer accepted, when we talk about partnering with the listing agent and just talking about how to get that deal accepted, what are your normal, goals in the conversation with your clients? Are these clients putting down 20%? Are seller concessions coming back into play? So I know that's a loaded question, but how are you helping, put that deal together and make sure it gets accepted?
Yeah, so as you said, definitely number one is in addition to having conversation with my buyers and finding that motivated seller, I do have many conversations with the agents to try and gauge how much room do we actually have, how motivated is the seller, and in terms of actually looking into listings, I do look into the history to see what the price drops are, and based on that I can kind of leverage, okay, this might be a good listing for us to target. But most importantly, I do run very extensive comps. I break everything down from the floor, the views, the market pulse, just so not just the buyer but the seller's agent has a better understanding of how we come up with our numbers, and just to make their job easier so they can have a very cohesive conversation with the seller based on the comps. And this is, it's not anything personal, this is why we came up with the offer that we came up with.
I think that's
um,
huge.
so yeah, and also working of course with mortgage lenders to see how we can get creative and make it work.
Right. Or maybe we're talking about an ARM product, an adjustable rate mortgage versus a fixed, or different ways, interest only loans, all the different products that are out there.
Yeah, and SEMA programs, that's something that is beneficial for both buyers and sellers.
For sure, especially in New York, where that is, that mortgage tax can really hurt you. So I think that's a great point. I really appreciate it. In terms of saving money and New Cost Lewis, we talked about some changes that FEMA has put out there, or just flood insurance changes. Can you tell us how that's going to affect the average homeowner?
Yeah,
Give some examples.
yeah, definitely. I mean, as we're seeing costs rise, everyone's looking to save money, right? One of the biggest changes to flood insurance in the past 6 months was the availability of private flood insurance for FHA loan buyers. So virtually all homeowners, residential property owners, and even commercial building owners are now able, regardless of their mortgage, to purchase what's called private flood insurance. And private flood insurance is anything outside of the FEMA-backed National Flood Insurance Program, or the NFIP, as you might hear it. So we're seeing these rates sometimes be up to 70% less than the standard market, and they're covering more. So there's potential huge upside for people that are buying in flood areas.
So in terms of like, if it's in a flood area, you might have to get your property raised, in the South Shore of Long Island. I feel like there's a lot of Long Beach where they have to put their house on stilts.
Yeah.
Like, how does that?
Right. Well, there's really only two options nowadays to try to save money on flood insurance. And one of that is either you look and shop the private flood insurance market, which a lot of people don't even know exists. And two would be that you raise your home, or you have somebody come out there that's a land surveyor or engineer. They're going to perform an analysis. Then you're going to hire a contractor to do it. I had one client even that told me that they were going to spend over $100,000 to raise their home, and that they were going to have the cost savings on flood insurance as per the contractor. They came back to me, and I was able to save them the money on the private flood insurance, and there was no reason to raise the home.
Wow. Wow. I appreciate that. As we look to wrap up here, I just want to start with Sean. If you're a self-employed business owner, you've been trying to get, your first commercial property, get into real estate. Are you doing that now? You're waiting a couple months. What's your view on the market again at this point?
Yeah, just like I had mentioned before, if it makes good financial business sense, they should move forward with the project, right? But they got to do so cautiously. As a banker in me, I have to say that. They have to make sure the numbers make sense, the mathematics make sense. Business owners are pretty savvy, right? They know when to pull the trigger and when not to pull the trigger. And if it makes sense, they'll do it. And obviously, from our perspective, we work with them to make sure to double check the numbers, right? To make sure that everything makes sense. So, yes, I would say that now is the time.
All right. And Cindy, I'll end with you. Cindy Lee, if you're renting right now in New York City and you want to buy a place, are you doing that right now? You're waiting a couple months, waiting a year? What are your thoughts on the market?
Well, I'll piggyback to what Sean was saying. I think that it really depends on what your financial comfort level is and what you're able to afford. I mean, rent has, since COVID, it's increased on an average of 25%. Although starting October, it's slowly tapered down, but me and rest of my colleagues that I've spoken to, we don't really anticipate the rent to drop that much more. So if you're paying an absorbent amount of inflated rent, and you're able to afford a home in New York City, then why not pull the trigger if the numbers make sense too, right? And that's my job to kind of compare apples and oranges and see what makes sense for you and what doesn't.
There we go. Well, let's hope rates continue to drop this year, and real estate, both residential, commercial, are things that our clients and friends get involved in. So thank you so much. You guys were phenomenal. I'm really excited for this. And thank you again. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks, Sean.
everyone.
Thanks, Cindy.
Take care,
Have a great
guys.
day.